Full transparency, I am not a Veritasium subscriber, but this video is on, predictably for the creator, no doubt, a ton of people's feeds right now. Point of personal privilege, I don't really get upset by clickbait's existence. I think that audiences have a responsibility to think critically, and if they fall into some sort of trap, that is, to a degree, their own fault. If I click on one weird trick that melts belly fat instantly, and I buy $100 of diet pills 5 clicks later, I am a sucker. It'd be nice if nobody took advantage of that, but if this was a utopia, this source video would not exist to begin with. Also, I've been privately described by a respected peer in the YouTube cooking space as an ideologue, so I hope I don't actually convince too many people to adopt my point of view on this topic, because if everybody thought exactly like me, the world would be excruciatingly boring, kind of like a long intro in which the host doesn't actually click play fast enough. Whoopsies. Let's watch.
Can I tell you something I'm bad at? I am terrible at making clickbait. Up until 2 years ago, my most popular video was about a basketball being dropped from a dam with a bit of backspin. It takes off like a rocket and shoots out way further than you'd expect. This video was embedded on literally hundreds of news websites, and in its first week it got 16.3 million views. But almost none of those views came on the YouTube platform. Why? Because I gave it this thumbnail and I called it Strange Applications of the Magnus Effect. This is when YouTube gave me access to Content ID. That's the system that allows you to earn revenue when someone else re-uploads your videos.
Okay, so this video starts off with a story of the narrator going viral even though he didn't use any clickbait. The only negative side effect was that click farms were able to go more viral than him by stealing it and reskinning it. And even then, the outcome was his ability to keep the money that those people earned on his behalf.
Which was good, but I still wasn't very good at clickbait. So for this video, I called in an expert.
I wanted to see your reaction face. Can you give me like a reaction face? Like, what's a good thumbnail face?
Oh, I got you. This is the thumbnail face. I have like 10 I go through the motions of, like, and then we just pick the best one. I probably have like 500 of these just saved, and we could just Photoshop my face on my face. So I don't even really have to do it anymore.
I unironically enjoy watching Mr. Beast. I'm kind of glad that the face of wild YouTube growth is a random suburban kid and not something that was crafted in a lab like a CG influencer or the Da Vinci twins. But respectfully, if you're taking advice from somebody who conducts his interviews on a handheld camera lying down with AirPods in, it's not really to gain insight on production value. His casual brand of kicking back on the summit of Attention Mountain is in itself some top-tier visual signaling. If you can go back and find his pitch to investors during the funding phase of Mr. Beast Burger or Beast Burger, whatever it's called, it's the same laid-back visual even in front of a bunch of rich investors who hold the fate of his restaurant idea in their hands. Anyway, all this to say that the guy who admits that his reaction face can be replaced by a bank of self-produced stock images is focused on efficiency, most likely, in regards to this subject, not high art or self-expression.
Now, the most enticing titles and thumbnails are found close to Type 2 clickbait. I'm reminded of the infographic by Smarter Every Day showing that on social media, the greatest engagement occurs close to the boundary of what's allowable. But remember that everyone's definition of clickbait is different, and everyone's perceptions of words and images are different. So these are not clear boundaries, they're actually kind of fuzzy.
This is 100% accurate, but it's important to pay attention to the fact that every YouTuber's definition of what's too much is always just one step beyond what they're willing to do. That includes me, by the way. The guy who will do an ad read but then get upset when I see somebody doing sponsored content for the US military or Raid Shadow Legends.
How important to a video's success is the title and thumbnail?
Very important, of course. If they don't click on the video, they don't watch it. You can't get 10 million views unless 10 million people click on the video. So, I mean, it's literally that simple. If they don't click on it, they don't watch it.
So why is clickbait everywhere? Well, because it works. More enticing thumbnails get more clicks, despite some people's claims that they won't click or they'll unsub. It's just like evolution. Whatever survives multiplies, and traits become amplified. If you don't begrudge the giraffe its long neck so it can reach the highest leaves, can you begrudge a YouTuber the big red arrow that allows them to reach further audiences?
Yes. Evolution based on survival is only loosely comparable. Not to say that all YouTubers are necessarily artists, but even if you treat it like a business, you have to start with why or ask, what's it for? You can only get 10 million views if 10 million people click. Hey. Well, that's only compelling if the purpose of your work is to reach as wide of an audience as possible. You usually cannot universally appeal to like 5 billion people online unless you are producing porn. People have different languages, value systems, lived experiences, biases, and if your aim is to produce content for an audience that's that wide, you end up just becoming Darman. That's the channel that puts out high quality Facebook grandma type content that employs simple language, Aesop level fables, and overacting that's easy to translate across dozens of languages. And I think Mr. Beast gets big numbers by doing activities that explain themselves even with the video on mute as well. Complete this task and win a big pile of cash or prizes. In the same way that I'm not seething over long-necked animals gaining access to tall vegetation while still being a little miffed that one particular species on Earth evolved to dominate the entire planet, I can be annoyed by overplayed thumbnail gimmicks that continue to keep Sniper Wolf on the front page while other channels just barely get by. Right now, YouTube is paying like $10,000 a month to people who can make tons of popular YouTube shorts in an effort to get a leg up on TikTok. They're also pushing a BTS YouTube Shorts dance challenge, meaning that they're willing to spend enough money to buy the rights that'll allow them to use the world's biggest pop star's name on a dance challenge that might put a dent in TikTok viewership. This is not a couple of dudes hemming and hawing over, gosh, fellas, I hope nobody gets upset that I stay on my hustle and grind. It's a gigantic company that knows it wants money and attention and is willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Not like a giraffe, but like a YouTuber.
And so it's not enough to make a good video, even if people watch all of it. You also have to make a title and thumbnail that gets clicked, especially in competition with other really good titles and thumbnails. That's the only way you can expect YouTube to give you more impressions.
I agree that producing an effective thumbnail is a huge part of the job. But the problem with this competitive mindset is that it's not too different from everybody in baseball is juicing, so I have to do it too just to keep up. That's not an entirely fair metaphor, but he's definitely conflating effective thumbnails and titles with dubious clickbait during this portion of the video.
Last year, I made a video about asteroids, which I thought was really good. I called it Asteroids, Earth's Biggest Threat, which is something Stephen Hawking said. And people were very positive about the video. They thought it was maybe one of my best. But the performance was well below average.
According to which metric is the performance way below average, even though he vividly remembers his audience clamoring over its quality? I think it might be money.
And then on day 3 after launch, I changed the title and thumbnail to "These are the asteroids to worry about." And immediately, the video started doing better. It quickly shot up from almost my worst performing video to my best. It now has 14 million views.
So this is a story about how changing the headline to something that sparks a tiny bit of fear or anxiety was rewarded by YouTube. I don't want that to come off as some sort of moralistic judgment, but I think it's more apparent over time that fear or anger-based bait is usually the most effective.
I changed the title and thumbnail and I watched the real-time view graph. What I'm looking for is a noticeable bump in views. Sometimes there's no change, sometimes it gets worse, but on occasions when you see something like this, well then you know you've found a winner. This is something all the big YouTubers are doing.
Video game pricing, Wario Golf, Balan Wonderworld, 4 million views. We don't really have a culture of enough or even too much. Stocks only go up, productivity only goes up, quality of life only goes up. Once you have everything you could ever need, you get to decide on whether you want to keep expanding and go to space or make some space for other people to have a turn on their own. Once you've garnered enough YouTube views to retire off of the passive income, you could hire a paid team of dedicated analysts to optimize your thumbnails and titles, or you could make This Is a Chicken Wing. But yeah, if I was close friends with Mr. Beast, I would have some pretty big Joneses to keep up with.
To understand the first reason, let's consider 2 different possible titles for my most recent video. I called it The Simplest Math Problem No One Can Solve. But it's a video about the Collatz conjecture, so perhaps a more straightforward title would have been simply to call it that. The problem is, if I publish a video called The Collatz Conjecture, the most likely people to click on it are those who already know what the Collatz conjecture is. And the vast majority of people will never have heard of it. So for them, the title is meaningless, and only the very curious or those who really like Veritasium would click. In contrast, calling it the simplest math problem no one can solve conveys more information about the video to everyone. And this means more people can click on it, most of whom will never have heard of the Collatz conjecture, so I get to teach them something new.
This isn't really an argument in favor of clickbait. This is just an example of a fair, enticing title. I know he wouldn't call this clickbait either because there's no open mouth face, there's no big red arrow, the title doesn't have random words in all caps. So this video is actually clickbait because the subject matter never actually delves into actual clickbait.
The second reason we need to optimize titles and thumbnails is to support the major goal of this channel. We are trying to make the best science films on every topic we tackle. That means traveling to meet experts and film experiments, hiring people to build props, make spectacular animations, research and fact check. We hire expert consultants to double and triple check our work. I don't want to make vlogs. I want to make science documentaries on YouTube that put broadcast to shame. And to make this possible and sustainable, the videos have to get views, and lots of them. And to do that, we have to make the best titles and thumbnails we can.
So this is not all about money. It's about being able to produce high-quality documentaries, which cost money. Again, it probably sounds like I'm just ragging on this probably very nice person, but it's always going to come down to the question of what's it for. And if the goal is really solely just to teach people about science concepts, then the scenario from the introductory story should be no big deal. The original creator gets paid, teams of people who are better at optimizing for attention can retool it a little bit, and everyone who watches it, whether it's on his channel or on a channel that stole the original video, gets that much smarter. But the pay might be less favorable or the brand recognition might get diluted. All I mean is that it's not entirely fair to dismiss the appeal of fame and fortune.
YouTuber and Patreon CEO Jack Conte has talked about adjusting your packaging. The idea is know what you're passionate about, what you won't compromise on, and that stuff goes in the box. All the rest, like what paper it's wrapped in, that's the packaging. So the video is my focus, and the title and thumbnail are the packaging that I'm happy to adjust so I can make the type of videos that are important to me.
This is probably where we agree the most. In the case of this person's video, he does not mind repackaging his work to increase views. What I was saying earlier is that every artist or business draws boundaries around what's acceptable, and we do happen to draw them right next to wherever it is we stand. Like, oh, at least I don't have silly faces in my thumbnails. Or yeah, I make silly faces, but at least it's not some super photoshopped body horror. Or yeah, I use every trick in the book, but it's just for views, not for elaborate crypto scams.
By the way, that MILF token they a while back, I already told you guys, don't buy that. I got paid a bag to do that. Like, I don't give a how many of you guys actually bought it?
I hope none of you guys actually bought the scam token that I promoted. Hashtag not financial advice.
I guess my main problem with the conceit of this video is that it hinges on conflating thoughtful thumbnail production with what's way easier to identify as annoying clickbait that people hate. If you visit YouTube in an incognito window, the thumbnails are violence and gaping mouths. The titles are useless teasers and all caps shouting match contenders. I could take this reaction video, the one that I'm recording right now, post it to my main YouTube account with a sad face in the thumbnail and title it something like, "I've never done this before, ... And that would be way more illustrative of what people have come to know as clickbait.
If we can be good at titles and thumbnails, the ultimate outcome is better videos. That is something I think you and I both want.
In the end, I think the problem with producing clickbait apologia is that it feeds this growth hackery mindset that promises big numbers for specific actions. And I think that's something that too many people try to chase after spending 12 or more years in a factory model education system that requires us to perform under certain parameters to receive a high grade. But if more people were able to self-soothe or self-govern or whatever it's called when you define your own metrics of satisfaction, it'll be the algorithms that are constantly adapting to our behaviors instead of millions of great artists putting energy into understanding, and then chasing, then defending the wants and wills of a machine that works for a very rich company that definitely knows what its goals are and will pit its constituent producers against each other to get there. So you and me, Veritasium, boxing match. Let's do it.